Hello everyone, my name is Cora. Welcome to my channel, Pampered Pages, and welcome to my 2024 Bookish Superlatives. I love creating music playlists that correspond to specific books, and for my 2024 superlatives, I've crafted 15 topics, with each featuring the title of a blast from my past hit. So without further ado, let's get into the jams and books. Written in the Stars, a book I was destined to love based on its genres, themes, and so on and so forth. I'm starting off with one of my favorite books of 2024, The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. United by time and a magical bookshop, this is a story about three individuals who desire to break away from beliefs and lives unbefitting. Their stories encompass themes like corruption, courage, family, freedom, identity, justice, loss and grief, and love. I'll link my spoiler-free review and book trailer down below, but I commend the recipe Evie Woods concocted when she wrote this beautiful and thought-provoking story. To recite one of my favorite quotes, I couldn't explain it, not even to myself, but books gave me an unflinching sense of stability and groundedness, that because words survived, somehow I would too. Never Say Never, a book series I started but currently don't foresee myself continuing. I actually vlogged my reading experience with my selection for this superlative, and the series I have chosen is the Lightlark series by Aster. Lightlark's blurb immediately caught my attention, and I had a hunch that I could easily see myself picking up the second book, Nightbane, based on how my experience went with the first book. Throughout my experience, I felt like I learned more as the books progressed, but my biggest critique was the conveying of plot points. I don't want to say I will never pick up book 3. Perhaps I will check it out from my library in the future, but for now, I currently don't foresee myself continuing with this series. A Sweet Escape, a book or series I quickly fell into when times were trying. March of 2024 included a few personally trying moments, and Bride by Ali Hazelwood was there to offer me a nice getaway when things were feeling extra. I do have plans to continue reading more from Ali Hazelwood, as Bride was my introduction to her writing, but when it came to Bride, my teeth were sunk, pun intended, and I had no intention of releasing them until every word was consumed. Irreplaceable, a book or series containing a character who knew their worth. My mind immediately recalled Bridie Devine and Cora Butter from Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. Things in Jars takes place in 1863 Victorian London, and you follow Bridie, a detective who is trying to solve the kidnapping of a very unique little girl. Cora is Bridie's no-nonsense housemaid, and despite my bias of her name, was one of my favorite characters. Those two were a force to be reckoned with, and I admired their tenacity and loyalty to one another. Things in Jars is one of my top 10 favorite reads of 2024, and while I don't own a physical copy, this title is one that is definitely deserving of a spot on my shelves. Shout out to my library, though. Should Have Said No, a couple or cast of characters that put my emotions through the ringer. Magnolia and BJ, the box set, Daisy Hates, The Lost Boys, basically everyone in the MPU. Full transparency, I was a bit frustrated after reading the first book, but I wanted to find out more, so I did. This cast of characters sent me on an emotional roller coaster, and I do recommend previewing content warnings if need be, if this is a series you might be interested in reading. Basically, in books 1, 3, and 5, you have Magnolia and BJ, London's it couple, and their friend group, the box set. Now, Magnolia and BJ are said to be, quote, in the stars. But something happens, and now Magnolia and BJ are no more. Or at least, they're not what they used to be. What they are now is dysfunctional, and it is catching up to them. Ultimately, they face the question, how many loves do you truly get in a lifetime? Then we have Daisy Hates and her found family, the Lost Boys, in books 2 and 4. Now, Daisy has been raised by her older brother Julian ever since their parents were murdered in front of them, and their line of work is rather complicated, dark, and dangerous. Enters Christian, a member of the box set, and he is how Magnolia and Daisy's storylines converge. Relationships form and tangle as this group of individuals navigate love, loss, and London's lavish social scene. It was a ride. An emotional ride. Big girls don't cry. Except they do. A book or series that had me sobbing. So many books in 2024 made me cry. High key, I love it, but one of the first that came to mind was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I can vividly recall sitting on my couch, blubbering, especially with all of the action towards the end. I've yet to read House of Flame and Shadow, but it is on my winter TBR. Thanks for the memories. A reading experience I look back on fondly. I had a fantastic time reading and creating puns for The Sunken City, which is book 1 in the Sunken City trilogy by Emma Noyes. I actually featured this book in my last My Ideal Night video, and I think the overall vibe of that evening really set the tone for my enjoyment. If you enjoy stories about pirates, underwater kingdoms, witches, magic, prophecies, demons, and love triangles, then this might be a trilogy for you. Books 2 and 3 are on my general TBR list, and IMO, they have some serious beach vibes. Bubbly, a book or series with grumpy sunshine vibes that I ate up like I was solving 4+4. I have 2 selections for this one, Laurie Gilmore's Dream Harbor series and The Assistant to the Villain series by Hannah Nicole Maehrer. Totally different genres, but lots of grumpy sunshine vibes, especially in the latter. I did end up reading The Christmas Tree Farm this holiday season, and it was such a cozy read. I still have the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and the Strawberry Patch Pancake House is one of my anticipated reads for this March. On a more villainous note, August will hopefully be the time I get my hands on book 3 of Evie and Tristan's story. I was really engaged with book 2, especially towards the end. I just hope I retain all of my knowledge until then. The Man Who Can't Be Moved, a book I couldn't put down until I reached the end. Surprise, surprise, I have another twofer, The Villa by Rachel Hawkins and The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. The former was a rather suspenseful read that had me vigorously flipping to its final pages. The Villa is a story about 2 women, Emily and Jess, who used to be best friends but have grown distant due to life's demands. But then their bond rekindles when Jess suggests a getaway to Italy. The villa they stay at is absolutely beautiful, but it has a past that takes the reader back to 1974 when it was known by another name. The reader is then transported back to the 1970s where we are introduced to another set of characters, and it is their storyline that sets into motion a chain of events that influence Emily and Chess's stay in present day. Secrets, both old and new, come to light or stay hidden within the villa's walls. On a not so suspenseful note, The Alchemist had been a book I had heard many positive reviews for, and I was eager to see what message, if any, I'd receive from reading it. To quickly summarize, The Alchemist is a story about a young boy named Santiago and his journey to self-discovery. While his initial quest begins as a search for treasure, his experience leads him to much more. The Alchemist is a book I can possibly see myself returning to at different points in my life, which, in my opinion, aligns closely with some of its messaging. I definitely finished feeling introspective. Give me more. A book or series that had me begging for more when it was over. This isn't the first time I've said this, but 2024 was the year of some banger singles for me, and The Wicked King by Holly Black, which is book 2 in the Folk of the Air trilogy, was one of those sequels. I do have book 3, The Queen of Nothing, on my winter TBR, and I am so eager to jump back in and see how everything unfolds, especially with how things left off in book 2. I wouldn't consider this a spoiler, but watching Jude navigate mortality in the world of fairy has been captivating, and I'm eager to see how the title of book 3 plays into what's to come. Forever, a book or series that is nestled into my being for all eternity. While I don't wish to have the nightmare living inside of my head, his story can definitely live on inside of my heart. The Shepherd King Duology is a combined top 10 favorite for me of 2024, and I felt so satisfied with how all of its elements were presented. The magic, the mystery, the mayhem. I wouldn't want my reading experience wiped from my memory, but it is a story I would love to read with fresh eyes just so I could relive the journey. Apologize, a book or series my emotions need an apology for. Not really, though. I tried not to include the same book or series twice, but there was no escaping Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings. Like The Lost Bookshop, Into the Dark was one of my top favorite reads of 2024. It was also one of the books that invoked the most tears and, unbeknownst to me beforehand, some reflection. I know these characters are fictional, but somewhere between books 1 and 5, they began to feel very real. While Into the Dark marks the end of Magnolia and BJ's story, my reading experience forever lives on inside of my mind and heart. 1-2 Step, a book that had me internally or externally kicking my feet in excitement or irritation. 100% without a doubt, A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. From the action to the banter between Freya and Bjorn, I was one-two stepping around my entire house. This Norse-inspired adult fantasy romance held my attention from start to finish. Though not exhaustive, there was miscommunication, forbidden love, forced proximity, tests of survival, secrets, and revenge. My past self was correct in predicting it would be one of my favorite reads of the year, and I will very quickly be grabbing the conclusion to this duology this coming May. Poker Face, an author whose books kept me on my toes. Alex Michaelides had me in my head trying to figure out the twist to every single one of his stories in 2024. And if I could summarize each book using only one word, they would be as follows: The Silent Patient, twisted; The Fury, blustery; and The Maidens, disturbing. Again, if you are new to his stories, I do encourage one to preview any content warnings if need be. Umbrella, a book or series I can count on to be a reread in the future based on its content. Ugh, Umbrella. I distinctly remember making this my featured song on my MySpace profile. It is a song that doesn't grow old for me, just like my next and final book, The Night Ship by Jess Kidd. If someone were to approach me in the street and ask for a book recommendation, The Night Ship would be a top contender. Another top favorite. I applaud Jess Kidd's research, time, and dedication put towards this novel, and its themes pulled at every single one of my heartstrings. Those are my bookish superlatives for 2024, and the last of my videos pertaining to my 2024 reads. For now at least, as I'm sure these titles will pop up in the future. I also hope to make this a tradition next year with potential new songs, maybe. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you soonish. Bye!